Yes, good evening to you, our listeners. Welcome to everyone on Love 101 FM, Facebook, and YouTube Live. This is Family Time. Family Time is about your issues and your relationships. It's about your at home family, your community family, and your global family. Family Time is produced by Family Life Ministries, and our aim is to enable healthy families, which will lead to healthy nations. So stay with us and please connect with us via all our platforms. That's on Facebook at simply FLM Family Life Ministries. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Family Life Ministries FLMJA, and on Instagram. Keep up with what's happening at simply FLMJA. While Family Time is a family program, we'd like to caution that it may, on odd occasions, touch on what some may consider mature subject matters. Your discretion is advised. I'm Crystal Daly Thompson, and we are here to talk about endometriosis. Now, around 190 million women worldwide live with endometriosis, yet many go years without a proper diagnosis. In Jamaica alone, 100,000 women are estimated to be affected. This condition isn't just about painful periods. It can cause severe pain, infertility, and major disruptions to daily life. Families often share in the emotional and physical toll of this. Family is in the heart of endometriosis. But what do you and your family, friends, or colleagues know about this horribly painful condition? Unfortunately, many persons accuse sufferers of being soft, sensitive, and overly dramatic. It's time to bring endometriosis out of the shadows. And that's what we're going to do today. While we do into the next hour or so, we want to hear from you. Here is your feedback question. What best eases your endometriosis pain? We want you to send your answers via WhatsApp text and voice notes to 876-997-3125. Try to keep those voice notes no longer than 30 seconds. And you can also call us on the studio lines at 876-968-8327 or 876-968-8328. You can even watch us live right now on our YouTube page and even on Facebook at Love 101 FM. We'll be right back. This is a very interesting topic here on endometriosis, and we have our special guest this afternoon, Professor Maya Clark Kataya, and of course, Sandrina Davis. When we talk about endometriosis, more than just a painful period. This is Family Time. We'll be right back.
On the next Campus Connection, we will be looking at teacher rotation and retention. Teacher rotation, or the practice of assigning teachers to different roles or schools, can impact teacher retention, which is the proportion of teachers in 1 year who are still teaching in the same school the following year. Can rotation benefit professional development and prevent burnout? Join us with guest Dr. Mark Smith, President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, and don't miss our special interview with representatives from DeVry University. Campus Connection is brought to you by Heart NSTA Trust. Skill is power. That's Campus Connection, Tuesday, March 25 at 5:30 p.m. Only on the family station, Love 101.
Yes, welcome back to you, our listeners. This is Family Time, and you are listening to us live here on Love 101. We want to give a special welcome to our guest this evening, Maya Clark Kataya, and she's the assistant professor at the New York Rory Myers College of Nursing and Grossman School of Medicine, and an endometriosis warrior. Now, just a little bit more of information. She is the Evelyn Lauder Associate Dean for Nurse Practitioner Programs and a professor at Hunter Bellevue School of Nursing. And of course, we mentioned she is an endometrious warrior. Who better to speak to us about, taking endometrius out of the shadows. We're shedding some light on this afternoon, none other than a warrior. And then we also have Sandrina Davis, and she's also an endometriosis warrior. And both of them are here with us this afternoon to speak on this. Now, guys, we want you to remember we need you to share your feedback question. So, your responses to the feedback question, which is what best eases your endometriosis pain? Remember, WhatsApp text and voice notes to 876-997-3125. Try to keep those voice notes no longer than 30 seconds. And you can also call our studio lines at 876-968-8327 or 876-968-8328. Watch us live on Love 101 FM Facebook and on our YouTube channel. No, I know a lot of you are burning to hear what the discussion is about. And of course, March is Endometriosis Awareness Month in Jamaica. And the aim is to raise awareness and support for women affected by this condition. So, today's discussion, more than just period pain, right? Or a painful period. And of course, we have our two warriors here to discuss. Good evening, ladies. Good afternoon, I should say. How are you both doing?
After the doctor, good afternoon.
Good
Awesome.
afternoon. How are you both? I see we both got the beige blazer memo there, Crystal.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We did. And of course, we have Sandrina in her yellow representing for endometriosis.
Oh, nails and all.
Yes. So we know yellow. So this is for our listeners. If you're not aware, you see people with that yellow ribbon, it's because it's Endometriosis Awareness Month. We know that the other colors, pink for cancer, purple for what's that autoimmune disease,
Lupus.
lupus, and red for AIDS, etc. But yellow is for endometriosis. Now, my first question, why does knowing about it matter?
Any
Why
one of
does
us?
yes, any one of you, any one of both
I
of you
always,
are warriors equally qualified to speak.
I always get excited when we have like persons who have like a strong medical background on panel because the awareness is even more heightened because there's a lot more, to share. And I want to just jump in and say that
Yes.
even though it's almost a tongue twister, right? Doc, when we say endometriosis, and people trip over the words many times, but it's absolutely no laughing matter. And
Mm,
so I would say, why does it matter? I think it matters because the more people know about it, the more they are able to and make the right choices in how you handle it. So we talk about the people perishing because of lack of knowledge, right?
mm,
And perishing doesn't always mean death, right? It means you may make wrong choices, you may make wrong decisions, you may treat people differently because you don't know. And so I think it's very important that we talk about endometriosis, not just in March, and we're very grateful for the opportunity to speak louder about it in March, but more people know, then the more they're able to better handle persons with endo, persons affected by endo, not just the women who are warriors, like Doc and
yes.
myself, but husbands, kids, extended family, co-workers. So this knowledge is critical for all of society, in my opinion.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think the other thing, speaking from my own experience, is the advocacy piece that, very often we're ignored
Yeah.
when describing what our experience is, and or we choose not to speak too loudly about it because we think everyone is experiencing the same thing that we are. So the more that we're
Mm,
aware of our bodies and what we can do to protect our bodies and advocate for our bodies is ideal.
yes. So a lot of people think that endometriosis is just bad cramps. So if they hear somebody say, I'm really having a bad period this month, it's more than that. What exactly is endometriosis, and how does it affect the body?
So the best way to think of endometriosis is, it's a chronic condition like any other illness, but what happens is the cells that are similar to the cells that line the uterus get
Yeah.
outside of the uterus, and they can be found on the ovaries or the fallopian tube or outside the uterus, on the surface of the uterus, for example.
in the pelvis. And so every month when you have your usual cycle, those cells function the same way the cells inside the uterus do. And so they may bleed, but there's nowhere for it to go. And so it causes inflammation and pain, and sometimes scar tissue wherever they may be.
Oh wow. Oh wow. So how common is endometriosis and why does it take so long for people to be diagnosed?
Um, Endometriosis is really, really quite common. I would say there's at least 10% of all women of reproductive age worldwide that experience it. Um, it's very difficult to diagnose because the symptoms, the vast majority of the time, look like other symptoms. So we're experiencing pelvic pain and menstrual cramps, which, depending on how you describe them, everyone treats as everyday cramps and or are ashamed to say that their pain is astronomical. You can have pain before, after, during intercourse, with bowel movements, with urination. Sometimes there's a lot of bleeding during menstrual cycles, which again could be a myriad of things. And so it's difficult for people to pinpoint that way. It can also cause infertility issues. And so there's really not one thing that would trigger someone to think that you have endometriosis. There's no family history or genetic risk. And diagnosis is particularly difficult because the gold standard of diagnosis is surgery. So you would have to have laparoscopic surgery for them to truly be able to say that that's what you have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
if
want,
I could add for just a second,
so,
and Doc saying that the symptoms mimic, you know, a host of other symptoms. I'll talk about just, my own journey. There are discussions around, maybe it's pelvic inflammatory, maybe it's PCOS, maybe it's fibroids, maybe it's this. And so there's a great gap of years that you're trying to figure out what is this thing. And the laparoscopic surgery that Doc speaks about, it's not, something you can just easily pay for. You have to plan and prepare based on its cost. And so in 2015 was when I did my lap surgery, and was able to be officially diagnosed with endometriosis. I think all those symptoms that just you can call it anything else in discussions with your doctor kind of helped with the difficulty of the diagnosis.
okay. So what are the main symptoms though? And you say they look the same. They don't look the same, or do they look the same? Like every what am I trying to say is for each woman, their experience is going to be different. So, can
Yes.
two women share the same symptoms, or the effects are similar for each woman, apart from just the painful experience?
I think some of the symptoms may overlap. I'm sure if Doc and I, like did our little checklist, we'd have some that we both experience, and then she may have things that I've never experienced. And so I would say, and I hope Doc will agree with me that it differs for every woman. But if you're blessed to meet somebody that's going along the same road as you, oh God, it makes the journey so much easier. But I'd say it's really different for every woman. Minus, I think we're all on track with pain, you know and maybe pain scales would be different too. But generally, a lot of the different symptoms they vary woman to woman.
Okay.
Yeah, that's 100% correct.
So, Professor Kataya, you mentioned that the endometriosis can be found on the ovaries, the lining, outside, and all of that. But what other organs of the body does this affect?
So I'm the poster child for this one. My endometriosis is actually on my lung and my diaphragm. So
Interesting.
yes, there are case studies of endometriosis traveling as far up as the brain. So that there are deposits, there are endometriosis cells on the brain, but the most common tend to be the areas that are most local to the uterus. So the pelvis, you'd have some on the bladder, maybe on the bowels or the intestines. Sometimes the kidney. Mine actually is on the underside of my diaphragm that then ended up on the right lung itself. So it can travel wherever your blood travels, essentially.
So, question: How you mentioned that it's very hard to diagnose. So you can't say, okay, if your mother was diabetic, you have to be concerned that you're going to be diabetic. So you can't track it like a hereditary kind of disease. So what do you think triggers it though? Is it a hormonal situation, dietary, environmental? What do you think would trigger such a disease?
So there's really no, it's not really well understood what causes it. So there's some thought that it could be caused by, retrograde menstruation, so that the blood is going the wrong way, and that's how the cells get outside of the uterus. But we're not really it's really poorly understood how it happens. What we really suggest is that as you're experiencing these symptoms, whether it's as mild as having abnormal pain or heavy bleeding, that you investigate it. There are several different evaluations that can be done just through taking a history about symptoms, experience, that will cue in a provider as to what they think it is. And then that will give us time to manage it. And again, like Sandrina said, not everyone jumps to having laparoscopic surgery. I mean, it took me over 3 years before I had my laparoscopic procedure, and I'm a nurse practitioner by trade. So it takes a very long time for most of us to figure out that that's where we're going. But the best way to do it would be to describe your symptoms, document your symptoms, have a conversation with your provider. Hopefully there's an opportunity to do something as simple as an MRI to give some idea if there's deposits locally,
Yes.
which then will advance the conversation.
All right. We want to unpack that a little bit more when we come back. Now, listeners, remember to WhatsApp or voice notes your responses to 876-997-3125 to the question, what best eases your endometriosis pain? The time is now 5:48, and we're going to a break. This is Family Time. We'll be right back.
Life is on the go. If you got this runs with corn, let's start with nothing made easy to prepare. Healthy, tasty, have it anytime, anywhere. Fuel your body day and night with a taste of the seaside. No challenge you can fight with Brunswick boneless sardines by yourself. Doesn't slow down, and neither do you. Brunswick boneless sardines are packed with omega-3 and ready to eat right out of the can. Try the hot peppers, the delicious olive oil, or the new spicy Thai chili on its own or on a cracker. However you like it. Brunswick boneless sardines. Snacking made easy, snacking made healthy, snacking made tasty.
Are you looking for unbeatable deals? Look no further. Phosphate is having a super sale. March 19 to March 30. Visit us in Kingston, Mandeville, Draxall, and Montego Bay. Discover amazing deals on hardware items, electrical items, chandeliers, flood lamps, LED bulbs, and much more. You cannot afford to miss this deal. Come shop and save at the Phosphate Super Sale. March 19 to March 30. Only at Phosphate. Open Sundays.
Jamaica's gangs are like packs of rats. They live in filth and try and drag us all in there with them, spreading the disease of violence and corruption everywhere. But like a pack of rats, they can be eliminated with your help. If you have information on gangs, call Crime Stop on 311. This message is brought to you by Crime Stop and their marketing partners, Lime and NCB.
Spring into savings with incredible deals from Home and Things. Whether you're upgrading your home or refreshing a room, don't miss these unbeatable deals now in full bloom for the best in tiles, bathroom fixtures, and faucets, windows, doors, vanities, lighting, and more. Home and Things is budding with discounts. So shop now, Old Hope Road and Constant Spring Road. Spring into savings and take home the deals from Home and Things.
Yes, listeners, welcome back. We're talking about endometriosis, more than just painful period. This is Family Time on Love 101 FM. And of course, we are here with our special guests, Professor Kataya, who is an endometriosis warrior, along with Sandrina, who is also an endometriosis warrior. Now, depression is exceedingly prevalent in women with endometriosis. We know that a lot of women they lose hope on several grounds. They would like to have a child. It poses a threat to that. Their comfort, is very uncomfortable for them. And of course, the rates for depression and the studies on this, 80 to 90%, the physical and emotional toll must be over the top, and the financial impact cannot be helpful, because we know that there are several procedures that one who suffers from endometriosis would have to consider. And of course, Dr. Kataya, you pointed out two very important things there, that the disease can spread to other organs, even to the brain, and that's something that is very shocking even for me to know that. But we want to know, as Black women, how do we start shifting the narrative that painful periods are normal? Because sometimes we think that, oh, you know, it's my cycle, I'm gonna have some pain. You just always have the liquid gels on cue, or the cetamol on cue, you know. So how do we change that narrative?
I'm tempted to say mash down that lie. And Dr. Kataya will have a more, a nicer way to put it. But let's talk about culture in Jamaica, right? First of all, remember that a cup of tea is going to solve every possible problem that you have in life, right? And I'm kidding. But the truth is, as little girls growing up, whenever we feel any way, we must drink some tea. And then, and we can't blame our parents, because their parents and their parents would have said, this is your rite of passage. This is how it's going to go. You're 12, you're 13. You're going to have some pain. This is the root. And so you believe that. And as you grow, when the pain gets worse, you remember that you were told that this is a part of life. So I think something that's most important is saying to all our women, it's okay to say what's happening to you and not feel ashamed about it. We're so strong, we're doing multiple things. We're running homes, we're working, we're helping everybody. And so we battle a lot of these things alone, because dare us show any signs of weakness. Open your mouth and say that you are not feeling well. And I think that that's a key part to it, that we encourage persons to speak up. And it's twofold, because as the awareness continues, when someone speaks up, they won't be gaslit or told that it's in their head or they're too sensitive. So you kind of have to have both things going on, that women know you can say what's going on with you and that it doesn't feel right. I was in a conversation last week and the guest said, you are the expert on your own body, which means even if everybody else in the world is telling you that, no, that don't sound right, you are the one that's feeling it. So you have to push the conversation and not to belabor the point. I remember when I was a teenager and I went to one of our hospitals here because I was in immense pain and my tummy had just swollen. You understand that? My tummy had swollen and I was treated for constipation. And I once did I say, no, I'm not constipated, in my little teenage voice. But after they wrote what they wrote for my constipation, I didn't say, no, sir or ma'am, I am not constipated. I have a real problem here. I literally respected the opinion of the learned professional, as I should, right? And I took what they gave me and went home knowing fully well that there was more going on. And so we want to be telling our girls that they need to speak up. And as the awareness continues, when they speak up, they won't be told that, it's not what you say that it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where the medical and gender bias and disparities really rear their ugly head. This is mostly where my research space is, but I too had the same experience. I was told for years that I didn't have endometriosis. I was told that I didn't have any risk factors for it, that I was having a cyst rupture every single cycle, every single month for years. And until my husband and I decided we were ready to have children, that was when I had gotten so sick that I was literally bleeding from my belly button every month. That was the first time we had a conversation. And it was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what you have. Like, duh, we've known this the whole time. Why didn't we do anything about it? But I too was taught that this is the expectation. You're going to have pain, just deal with it. Not to, it's better to be seen and not heard, and to follow what my provider was saying.
So let me ask this Professor Kataya, do you think that once a young black girl enters puberty, that there should be some generic screening for endometriosis or the potential of it, so that the young teenage girl, and I'm just pulling from what you experienced, Sandrina, can know what might be happening to her body, or become aware that there is such a thing, that she should be considering, and even educating mothers to say, your 13, your 14-year-old, your 15-year-old might just be going through this, and it's something that they're aware that they should be looking into.
I think, to both of your points, we didn't have words to this when our parents were coming up. Our moms, our aunts, our cousins, our sisters, they didn't have endometriosis as a word. They didn't know what to call it. They just knew they were having painful periods and likely struggled, conceiving and having children. And so I think that it's going to be imperative that moving forward, one, we have better research so that we do have better methods of exploring and diagnosing when people come in complaining of these symptoms. And two, that it gives young women the opportunity to advocate for themselves. They don't know what they're even advocating for. Yeah. And so we need to spend the time really teaching women, Black women in particular, about their bodies, the words to use, how to use it, and to always use their voice.
So do you think this illness affects Black women more than other races?
There definitely is a disparity that Black women have been experiencing a lot more, and lately far more significant disease. So it can be as simple as pain, or in my case, it could be as involved as having other organs involved. And so, yes, there does seem to be some disparity in Black women.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier, your husband was there with you when you was going through all of that process and so on. How does this disease affect families?
And Sandrina can probably talk to this too. Each cycle you feel horrible. Mm. And it's not just the cycle itself. You may be uncomfortable a couple of days before, a couple of days after. It's not just the bleeding that's painful. She was talking about having bloating and distension and belly pain. So I'm not available to my partner, to my friends, to the students I teach, the patients I provide care for. You lose hours of work. You don't feel like yourself. You're not engaging. It has so many layers of impact because you physically are unwell and not able to care for yourself and engage the way you want to. I'm sure Sandrina could say the same thing.
I love how Doc started about saying that you feel worse. So I know that we talk a lot about, just how endometriosis affects a woman's ability to have children. And I like saying it that way because there are women who have been able to have children. I have one son, and a big part of how I feel when I am ill is that I can't be the best mom that I want to be. I have been in bed when I have a really bad bout, and I have to say, can you find something to eat? Can you do this yourself? Yes. And when you have to do that, you feel like the worst of the worst, because in your mind, you know what a great mom does. She cooks, she cleans, she makes sure the house is in order, she takes him to everything that he needs to go. And then there are those days when you really absolutely cannot do that. And so there are all these spin-offs that and you started talking about mental health. There are all these spin-offs that make a woman feel so low because she's not able to be her best. And that is a hard part of the journey. I'll leave it at that. Yes. That's a hard part of the journey.
Yes, thank you so very much for that, Sandrina. We can definitely come back to that. The time is now 6 p.m. You're listening to Family Time right here on Love 101. It's now time for Word to Flesh Moments with Reverend Mike.
I am told that endometriosis is a disease affecting the female reproductive organs and is a painful condition that currently has no cure. The symptoms, I'm told, can be relieved by following traditional medical treatments and also engaging in homeopathic remedies. I'm by no means a trained medical or homeopathic doctor. However, I'm a trained and experienced spiritual advisor. In addition, I have had to learn to manage a disease and its pain all my life. God, the creator of all of us, has allowed in his design diseases and pain. Therefore, it is logical that he would make allowance for and address the issue of diseases of the body and managing pain. So I offer you Psalm 103, who forgives all your iniquities, who heals all your diseases, who satisfies your mouth with good things so that your youth is renewed like the eagles. No one in their right mind doubts God's ability to forgive, but we doubt his ability to heal. No one doubts our Creator's ability to redeem us, but we doubt his ability to satisfy our mouths with good things and renew our youth like the eagles. Our Creator is either God of all or not God at all. Somebody needs to fix your thinking and belief system today. So we must either believe that he can and make room for his healing, or live in the hope of his promise found in John 16. A woman giving birth to a child has pain because the time has come. But when the baby is born, she forgets the anguish because of her joy that a child is born. So with you, now is your time of grief, but I'll see you again and you will rejoice, and no one will be able to take away your joy. I'm Reverend Mike from Fellowship Tabernacle, and we just had a WTF moment.
Are you looking for unbeatable deals? Look no further. Phosphate is having a super sale. March 19 to March 30. Visit us in Kingston, Mandeville, Draxall, and Montego Bay. Discover amazing deals on hardware items, electrical items, chandeliers, flood lamps, LED bulbs, and much more. You cannot afford to miss this deal. Come shop and save at the Phosphate Super Sale. March 19 to March 30. Only at Phosphate. Open Sundays.
Jamaica, get ready. It's time to eat, vibe, and celebrate at the Devon House Seafood Fiesta, sponsored by the National Fisheries Authorities on Sunday, March 30, 2025, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Indulge in the finest seafood dishes from Jamaica's best seafood restaurants. Special guest performances to keep you grooving. Fun for the entire family in our exciting Kids Village. Mark your calendars and bring your crew to Devon House for a seafood experience like no other. Tickets available at the Devon House information booth and touchstonelane.com.
Spring into savings with incredible deals from Home and Things. Whether you're upgrading your home or refreshing a room, don't miss these unbeatable deals now in full bloom for the best in tiles, bathroom fixtures and faucets, windows, doors, vanities, lighting, and more. Home and Things is budding with discounts. So shop now, Old Hope Road and Constant Spring Road. Spring into savings and take home the deals from Home and Things.
Welcome back, listeners. The time is now 6:04. This is Family Time. You're tuned to Love 101. And of course, Family Time is brought to you by Family Life Ministries. FLM provides counseling for people with all kinds of challenges from all walks of life. Our show this evening is Endometriosis, More Than Just a Painful Period. And our special guests are Professor Maya Clark Kataya, of course, assistant professor at the New York Rory Myers College of Nursing and Grossman School of Medicine, and an endo warrior, and Sandrina Davis, who is also an endo warrior, sharing their experiences and, of course, giving us meaningful insights as we encourage and empower other warriors out there. Any woman who is still having a period can get endometriosis. So let me just say that. We pray in the name of Jesus that, as we have this show, that anything that is looming, that it regresses. In fact, 10% of women in the reproductive age group do. However, this number may be higher as the illness is failing to be diagnosed. I just really hope, Professor, that with all the studies that are going on, that we can find out what is triggering this disease. As we go into further discussions around the diagnosis and treatment, we want to know, why is it complicated to diagnose? Exactly why. I know we touched on the fact that it is hard to diagnose because of how it presents, but why is it so complicated from a medical perspective?
I think, this is really multifactorial. One really is that the symptoms vary so widely. And so it can look like other conditions, irritable bowel syndrome, pelvic inflammatory disease, like Sandrina was talking about, even anxiety. That's everyone's favorite thing to say. We're anxious or we're histrionic, whatever the case may be. But really focusing on things like it's just poorly researched. No one really pays attention to diseases of a woman's body, particularly a Black woman's body. It does require surgery. That is the gold standard for diagnosis. Although if you have a really good provider, MRI can see endometrioma or spots where there are cell deposits if they're large enough. We talked a little bit about the bias, medical bias and gender bias. Having a menstrual period has been very normalized. And in that same vein, the pain that we experience is either minimized or just thought to be part of being a woman, and that we can handle it. And so that contributes, and that there's really not a lot of training. I had the good fortune to be in a university area where I was sent to an endometriosis specialist. That is not common by any stretch of the imagination. It is typically treated as though it's just a period problem. And so until there are a myriad of the providers like I had available, this is likely to continue, which is why, to Sandrina's point, we all need to be able to advocate for ourselves and use our voices. The more we know, the better we are able to be taken care of.
Okay, so what were some of the biggest barriers you both faced when trying to get answers, whether medical, emotional, or even cultural? Earlier we spoke about how sometimes people may think, oh, you're just overreacting. Every month, that's how it is for you. You're just trying to act all puny, as we would say. So what were some of the barriers you experienced in any of those three areas: cultural, medical, emotional?
Or I dare say that sometimes, I was my own barrier, um, primarily because of just everything that, would have been entrenched in you very early. And so for a good couple of years or a good number of years, you would be telling yourself that, no, man, this is how it's supposed to go. You got this. You can handle it. It's sometimes you can, as you manage your disease over time, you actually have it down to a science. You know how long this thing is going to last for. When you're going to feel your best, and so you
Yes.
start kind of just working it through and just managing that kind of schedule. So I think sometimes there are our own barriers, but I think also, just I would speak to financial barriers for any woman at all. Think about visiting your gynae and maybe feeling that, oh, this one is not working out for me. Then you have to shop around to find someone else. And a lot of times it is connected to say that the best healthcare is the most expensive healthcare. Now, I don't necessarily believe that that is true, but there's that notion. And so sometimes you find yourself going after who is the best in the business, and they're
Okay.
the best has a cost. And so a lot of times there can be financial barriers as well, that you feel you can't afford. And obviously even just the laparoscopic surgery, that's a cost in and of itself. I don't know what it costs in the States, and I did it 10 years ago. So I know what I paid is nothing to what it is costing now. So that financial part is really, really huge. And I leave those two. I'm sure Dr. Kataya has some more.
I would wholeheartedly agree. You are 100% right. I too was my own barrier. I had pain for as long as I can remember since I started having cycles. And so I thought that that's just the way things were. And it wasn't until I was in my PhD program, my roommate happened to be a women's health nurse. And we had been living together, I don't know, maybe 3 months. And she was like, "Are you sure you don't have endometriosis?" And I said, "Yeah, I brought it up so many times, and my GYN said I didn't have risk factors." And she was like, "Duh, because there aren't any." Had she not had that conversation with me, had she not have advocated for me in the way that she did,
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have found out at all
Yeah.
until, I don't know, when did I get married? 3 years later?
Well, because I was about to ask you both, how long did it take you guys to be diagnosed, since it's so hard to identify it?
I,
Years.
yeah, I at least let's put it in perspective. I was diagnosed at age 29, and you were saying that we're feeling ill in our teenage years. You
Yes.
know,
Same,
Yes.
do the math.
same.
Wow. Wow. Several years. So we have a voice note in or WhatsApp voice note that we're going to play now, just to hear from one of our listeners.
Good afternoon. I am listening from Montego Bay. Um, we really want to know if there's a connection between endometrius and endometrial cancer. Yes, yes, yes. I learned of it when I was diagnosed in last year, and it has been a journey. It's really been a journey. I can't recall having very excruciating pain during my menstruation period. But now that I'm diagnosed with cancer, I'm just wondering, if there's any information. But thank you. God bless you.
Okay, thank you so much. So that's for you,
Did you
Dr.
hear the
Bernadette.
question clearly?
I think the question was, is there any relationship between endometriosis and endometrial cancer?
Correct.
Yes.
And so, again, harkening back to the fact that there's not a lot of research related to this in particular, there isn't an exact association between endometriosis and endometrial cancer. So just to think about endometrial cancer or any sort of cancer as the cells themselves sort
Yeah.
of regenerating in an abnormal way, which makes them rogue, as opposed to what happens in endometriosis, which is that the cells still function the way that they would if they were in the uterus. They're just not in the uterus. So that's the difference, that the cells are still functioning the way that they are supposed to, just in a different place in
Yes.
endometriosis, as opposed to what happens in cancer, where the cells themselves are different, functioning differently, and cause the disease process that is cancer.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wow. There is so much to unpack concerning this matter. So much to unpack. Uh, you know, what I'll say this just before we head into another break. What advice would you give to families in terms of how could they advocate for a loved one still waiting for a diagnosis or struggling through treatment?
Oh, I would say the most important thing would be to hear your family member who's saying that they're going through this, um, and support them in their best way possible, even if you may not understand it, you may not experience it. Give them the space to really advocate for themselves, to protect themselves. And when they need the time, give them the time. It is debilitating.
Yes.
It's debilitating in a way that we as women, and particular Black women,
Yes.
are not brought up to be okay with. And so we need to be allowed the space to care for ourselves.
Yeah. Um, a very good question here coming from our producer. Can persons who have endometriosis can it develop into cancer?
No.
following that? Okay.
So endometriosis is considered a benign or non-cancerous condition, even
Mhm.
though it causes the severe pain and complications. It's not it doesn't turn into cancer. No,
Okay. Thank you so very
that is
much
a
for
great
clarifying
question.
that. Great. Good news to hear in some sense.
It is
So
great news.
we
It
can,
is great news.
yes. So we can manage our anxieties there for those warriors who are listening at the moment. We're heading into our final break, listeners. This is Family Time live on Love 101 FM. You can see us live also on our YouTube channel and on Facebook. It's produced by Family Life Ministries. For our feedback question, please answer this question: what best eases your endometriosis pain? Send your answers via WhatsApp text and WhatsApp voice notes to 876-997-3125. Try to keep those voice notes no longer than 30 seconds. And you can also call our studio lines at 876-968-8327 or 8. Watch us and comment live on Love 101 FM on Facebook and YouTube. We want to hear from you. Now, also, did you know that there are two books from FLM? You'll want these books on your shelves. Now, the first one is Answers to Questions Parents Ask, and the second is Questions on Love, Sex, and Marriage. Now, purchase any of these two valuable reads from Brian's Bookstore, the Jamaica Baptist Union Bookstore, and Source of Light Bookstore. And then there's a third book, and the title of this third book is Before They Say I Do, the questionnaire and manual, specifically for those who are counselors, psychologists, pastors, and marriage officers. This is available on Amazon also through a simple search for Barry Davidson. Now that's Dr. Barry Davidson. But all three books, including the third edition of Before They Say I Do, are available through Family Life Ministries. Call us at 876 928 1034 or 876 926 8101. This is Family Time. Don't go anywhere. We're now up on the break.
Are you looking for unbeatable deals? Look no further. Fosfridge is having a super sale. March 19 to March 30. Visit us in Kingston, Mandeville, Draxall, and Montego Bay. Discover amazing deals on hardware items, electrical items, chandeliers, flood lamps, LED bulbs, and much more. You cannot afford to miss this deal. Come shop and save at the Fosfridge Super Sale, March 19 to March 30, only at Fosfridge. Open Sundays.
On the next Campus Connection, we will be looking at teacher rotation and retention. Teacher rotation, or the practice of assigning teachers to different roles or schools, can impact teacher retention, which is the proportion of teachers in 1 year who are still teaching in the same school the following year. Can rotation benefit professional development and prevent burnout? Join us with guest Dr. Mark Smith, President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, and don't miss our special interview with representatives from DeVry University. Campus Connection is brought to you by Heart NSTA Trust. Skill is power. That's Campus Connection, Tuesday, March 25 at 5:30 p.m. Only on the family station, Love 101.
Yes, welcome back, listeners. Just a brief technical difficulty there. You are listening to Family Time right here on Love 101 FM. The time is now 6:20. Now, FLM is produced by Family Life Ministries. FLM provides counseling for people with all kinds of challenges from all walks of life. Remember, you can tune into the program via the Love 101 Facebook page and YouTube channel. The topic today is endometriosis, more than just a painful period. Our special guests are Professor Maya Clark Kataya and Sandrina Davis. So now that we know all that there needs to be known and understood about endometriosis, how do we empower patients, family, and friends and spread awareness? After all, this is endometriosis month. Now, we want to be taking control of this, managing endometriosis and advocating for change. We're hearing that there are several challenges in the diagnosis process. Sometimes persons, they're not even aware of the fact that they are affected by this disease. And so, my question is, as we go into this final segment, what changes or habits, whether in lifestyle, diet, or mindset, have helped you manage your symptoms and daily life? And this goes out to the two warriors right here.
I mean, I think I have along my journey, I think, tried quite a few different things, right? So there's the holistic approach, there's the traditional medicine, and I would have gained relief from both. And so I want to hasten to say that as you discuss things with your medical practitioner, as you have this relationship with your doctor and the team, because sometimes it's a team of doctors that help to manage your case, um, you will it's got to be a bit of trial and error. From traditional medicine, you do surgery, then you have all those different injections that they ask you to take, and you may start on one, and that has happened to me. Start on one, and I'm calling my doctor 2 months in, and like, nope, I'm not doing this. What else do we have on the menu, because this is not working? Or you may see someone who says, well, maybe if you adjust your diet and exercise a bit more, keep your stress levels down, get your rest in, that you'll have better relief. And having done, both different things, I can say that they both gave relief to my symptoms. At least I now know what foods trigger an endo flare. Some of it I still buy and eat, to be very honest and transparent, because we're humans.
Yes.
But the reality is, any of those kinds of adjustments that you mentioned can make the journey a little bit easier. We have that keyword there, it's a chronic illness, and chronic tells you that there's no cure, it's going to prolong. And so you want to be able to find what works for you to make your journey easier, because endometriosis is not the end of your life. I have a professor on here with me. She has had to live and do the things that she feels passionate about, regardless of having endometriosis. And likewise, I still am engaged in living with endometriosis, because it's not the end of our lives.
I'm
Also,
so glad you were the one that talked about diet and not me, because I feel like every time I come on this show, I get in trouble. It's either about diabetes or high blood pressure and what you can and cannot eat. So I'm glad you said it first. But I would definitely agree that all those things are true. I do everything from yoga and meditation. I did acupuncture. But also the traditional medications. I did Lupron injections. I lived off, you did too, right, Sandrina? You do it too. I lived off of Tylenol and Motrin for an extended period of time. My heating pad was my best friend. I mean, I did all the things possible, but I do think there is definitely a place for taking care of yourself, managing your stress, ensuring that you're getting enough rest. There is some thought that an anti-inflammatory diet helps, which means processed foods, red meats, and refined sugars we try to keep to a minimum. But that's hard. I mean, most of us, you eat what you have available and what you were brought up to eat. So I say that with a grain of salt, not expecting everyone to have access to all things.
yeah.
You know, movement has been helpful, trying to exercise even in those times where I'm really uncomfortable. Just trying to do some stretching, or a combination of the stretching and the heating pad. And really, Sandrina said it so well, we are living with endometriosis. And so
Yes.
shifting your mindset that yes, you're going to have some good days, you're going to have some bad days, track your symptoms, know your cycle, know your triggers, and take control of your own destiny.
Yeah. A question here from one of our YouTube viewers. Can a woman over 60 go through endometriosis?
So it depends on if you're still actively having cycles. Usually women who are in their 60s have gone through menopause, which is essentially the treatment for endometriosis. Endometriosis is hormonally driven. So you're thinking about estrogen.
Yes.
which is why Sandrina and I were both suggested to try Lupron, because it shuts down the production of both estrogen and testosterone, therefore stopping our cycles and the pain from happening. So hopefully, if you're in your 60s, you should have gone through, most women have gone through menopause at that point. If you're experiencing bleeding and pain, pelvic pain in your 60s after going through menopause, do not walk, run to your provider's office. That is not normal.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. So we have Karina Brown McLean. She said here, I had a lot of pain going to school, but when I got married and had my child in 2020, I had to do a surgery to remove a cyst from my left side, and now the cyst is back on my left ovary. So does surgery correct anything, or does it just simply ease the symptoms for a time?
So yes and no. So I know that's not the answer that she wanted, but I again am the poster child for this, that depending on where the cells are and how much they have grown, sometimes they're so microscopic you can't see them, and then over time they progress. And so yes, you could have had an endometrioma that looked like a cyst and had it removed and then it grow back.
Oh, wow. Wow. This is very technical. This is what I'm
Yes,
realizing. It's really technical because, you can't say what it is. It looks like this, you treat it, and then you hear, oh, it's this. It must be very frustrating.
But this is to
so,
your point, why it's so difficult to diagnose it.
yeah. So what do you say to someone who has been recently diagnosed?
You're not alone. Great place to start. You're going to need support, and find that very early in the journey. Locally, there's the Base Jamaica, which is an organization here in Jamaica that supports and provides information for women's endometriosis. So at Base Jamaica on social, Facebook and Instagram. And why I say that is because a lot of times people think that we need all these things as endo warriors. Sometimes it's just a listening ear. Sometimes it's somebody that actually understands what you're going through, because that's major as well, And so if you're just recently diagnosed, remember that there are many of us out there. Number two, find us so that we can support you by listening, by crying with you, talking with you, and also really try to find a doctor or a team of doctors that you trust.
Yes.
Or if you choose to holistic, your choice, but make sure it's a group of people that you trust, you've done your research, and you know that they also have your best interest at heart. Because let's not make any bones about it, the medical industry is also a very booming business. So you want to find the persons that have your best interest at heart and want to see you have your best quality of life as well. And
Awesome.
don't forget to pray, because
Yes.
my relationship with God has seen me through some very, very tough times, and it makes a huge difference.
Awesome. What a strong way to end today's show. I want to leave our listeners with this passage of scripture from Jeremiah 30, verse 17. For I will restore health to you, and I will make you whole. Join us again next week for another informative program. Thanks again to our special guests, Professor Maya Clark Kataya and Sandrina Davis. Thanks also to our show producer, Kathy Gale. Big up yourself. Thanks to Derval Graham for piloting us through this hour, and to Rashid Perry for resource and research support. And of course, you have a great week. I'm Crystal.